Let's go, girls. Been out in the wilderness? No, I'm not talking about your local park's walking path. I'm talking about the wildlands of Alaska. Now picture this. You're trekking through the massive tracts, wide open spaces, soaring mountains, and salmon-filled rivers of untamed and rugged beauty. You and your cousins have been hiking like all day through like a foot of snow. You find a covered spot in a draw to take shelter, but out of nowhere, the ground starts to rumble, and your cousin's hands start to tremble. He's been here before, and he knows what's in store. Ha, that rhymes. A herd of wolverines crest the hillside surrounding, snarling and licking their chops. You are trapped. The only way out is to fight. Outnumbered 100 to 1, it makes Custard's final stand seem like daycare. The gang of wolverines advance on all sides. You reach for the only lifeline you have. You unsling off your shoulder a flippin' Benelli M1014 12 gauge. What do you think? Gosh. Listen, Cody Curry here, and this is 110 SAS Actual. The door hinge sling, Wolverine stacking, fire and buckshot breathing M1014 Benelli flippin' 12 gauge. Whew. What a time to be alive. You're 6 feet above the dirt and in the comfort of your own home, enjoying story time with old dad. Welcome, buddy. So go ahead and drop a comment for the algorithm gods and hit that little subscribe button and grab yourself a danged quesadilla because M1014 school time, it's now in session, boys. The day is May the 4th be with you, 1998 AD. The United States Army Armament Research put out the word a party was on and they needed a flippin' 12 gauge semi-automatic combat shotgun. Well, the fine wine drinking folks of Italy said, oh, and understood the assignment. A chef's kiss, and 3 months later, 5 samples of the Benelli M4 were delivered stateside. So they went through like some super brutal testing at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds of Maryland. You know, that's a state I haven't thought about in a while. I mean, is Maryland even real? But yeah, anyways, super rigorous testing. Bro, these things literally had 25,000 rounds through them. And not just, fire 25,000 rounds, but they couldn't even have to replace a single major component. Holy shnikes. First of all, RIP to Old Point's shoulder that had to fire all them shells. And thirdly, it actually passed with flying colors. And secondly, god damn. So the Benelli was adopted. And it's still being used today by military, law enforcement, and agencies and enthusiasts all across the globe. So clearly a success, right? Well, let's talk about how it works first. ARGO. No, not Ben Affleck's Academy Award-winning motion picture, ARGO. Auto-regulating gas operated. An entirely new design. A short stroke system utilizing 2 stainless steel pistons to operate a rotating bolt here inside the receiver. It's actually a really rad design. It completely eliminates the need for those crazy, intricate gas designs that so many semi-auto shotguns have today. In addition, the weapon is self-regulating, meaning, so I can go ahead and I can throw in a lower powered shell all the way up to 3-inch magnums without having to make any adjustments whatsoever. Now, ultralight loads and like non-lethal stuff, they're still gonna have to be cycled manually as they just don't produce enough oomph to make it, do the thing. But that's okay. We don't do that around here, those non-lethal rounds. So it has peak 90s matte black phosphate and anode finish for maximum tactical drip, but I feel it's much better suited with a 30 rack of Busch Latte's induced rattle can job. See, now, the only reason this one hasn't been done yet, well, I'm still training my liver for the next modern art masterpiece, so we've got a little bit of ways to go. Anyways, from the factory, you have a top-mounted Picatinny rail for mounting your optics on. Since the receiver is already drilled and tapped, there are a lot of companies that make aftermarket parts for them. I went with the Picatinny rail system here for optics, but also has the shot shell holder here on the side. This is especially nice when you're being overrun by a horde of tenacious wolverines. You'll have a 7-shell mag tube here, and with 1 in the chamber, that makes 8 total. Yes, I can math like so good, bro. There's even loads of aftermarket handguards, so you can get like an M-LOK or Picatinny rails mounted on it for your lasers and lights as well. It even has a collapsible stock, for those raids of the pantry. So now you know everything there is to know. How does it run? And is it worth it? Well, out of the box, I'm not gonna lie, I was real scared. Like any other kid, with a brand new toy, I went and grabbed a couple boxes of shells, I went to my range and put exactly 50 shells through it. And they weren't exactly what I would call reliable. I was having a tremendous amount of failure to feed issues. I was actually kind of upset because, this thing is brand new in the box and I thought I'd gotten like a lemon or something. So frustrated, I took it home and says, we live to play another day. After a sleepless night and dreams filled with manipulating malfunctions, I decided, I gotta break this thing down, hose it down with a half a can of brake cleaner and lube every single metal part. Took it back out and beat the brakes off of it. The first 10 rounds had 2 malfunctions, but after that, we went 1,150 shells of 0 stoppages. So I'm not exactly sure what that was, So prior to taking it out to the range, getting those first rounds down the pipe, all I did was, lube the essentials, make sure there wasn't any packing material skittles, in the barrel or the receiver. So I can't exactly say what happened, but this is my assumption. It just needed a little bit of break-in. Super tight tolerances that, you need a little bit of Kentucky gunsmithing and just work itself out. Because as of now, it's a can't stop, won't stop kind of scattergat. It's pretty rad, really, because in the video, I shoot a little bit of everything. 3-inch 1-ounce slugs, 2 3/4-inch slugs, 3-inch Magnum double B steel goose shot, double-aught buck, 7.5 bird shot. Basically just like raided my hunting ammo cache. After those first 60 rounds, not a single little issue. It ate and spit out every single thing I fed it, which is exactly what a goodest boy does. Now, what I particularly like about this thing is how you can just load whatever, and it simply just works. There aren't many semi-auto shotguns that can actually do that on the market today. And if they can, well, they can almost never do it for very long. They simply require much more maintenance than the M1014, or would require you to change some settings, flip friction rings, or something other, a little adjustment. What I also like is, it's a relatively soft shooter. Now, guys, my background is heavily rooted in hunting shotguns here on my farm. From shooting minute of a barn rifled slugs out of a smoothbore 1950s Browning A5 to, pump action 410s rabbit hunting. I grew up on shotguns and using them as a tool. And well, I'd like to say I have a pretty dang fair amount of experience with them. And I'm genuinely impressed by this thing. It's not often I'm super impressed by guns. And this one here, well, I'm pretty impressed with it. I really like it. I have half the mind to make a wooden plug and take it deer and bird hunting this year. Actually, scratch that. I am going to make a plug so that it is legal to hunt with, and I'll post the results on my Instagram. So go ahead and subscribe there and you'll see those kinds of stories. Now, how does the M1014 feel? Well, it feels pretty nice. It's a very balanced shotgun. Especially when it's fully loaded, you can really just pop the gun here. You're not, falling forward with it. You're not tipping back with it. It's a very balanced shotgun. Recoil, it's a pretty unique little shuffle, I grew up shooting Browning A5s, and they have this very unique Kerchunk long action recoil system where the whole barrel slides back into the receiver to help eject the shell and feed the new one. This guy here is obviously fixed, but you have a piston system that pushes the actual rotating bolt in there and operates the whole system. It's a very unique little shuffle. And to be honest with you, it's kind of pleasant. I think it really does help kind of absorb a lot of the extra recoil that that you'll get out of those 3-inch Magnums, the slugs and buckshot and such. Now, as far as controls go, it's very simple, very straightforward. There is one thing I really don't like about it. In order to load this gun, you can't just shove shells into it and just cock it and rack it forward. The bolt has to be open and locked to the rear, which means you have to press a little guy here on the bottom and then lock it forward. At that point in time, you have to put a shell into here, close the bolt, and then you can continue to load. It's a little frustrating to me, to be honest with you. You know, a lot of other shotguns, it's simply stick them in the tube, rack it, you're ready to go. Not with the Benelli system. You have this little guy here on the bottom. You hear the click, the audible click. That's what kind of forces a shell out. And unfortunately, when you do that, say this bolt is closed and you push that button, get your audible click, it's gonna spit a shell out right in through here. Then you can take it and load it. You go to shoot it, you're gonna get a single shot shotgun because it's just not gonna load anything else from the tube. It's a very strange feature, and I'm not gonna lie, I knew I was doing something wrong because, you know, I'm not super familiar with the Benelli system here. So what I had to do is I called Benelli. Guy was super nice. I told him, I was like, bro, I know I'm doing something wrong here. Tell me how stupid I am and just tell me how to fix this thing. And he goes, yeah, that's what you gotta do. You gotta make sure the bolt is locked back to the rear, put one into the chamber, drop the bolt, then you can load it. It's really a pretty simple thing once you do get used to it, you know, and especially if you did grow up on like 1100 Remingtons, Browning A5s, and other semi-automatic shotguns. As far as the actual controls go, well, they're pretty nice. You know, you have a big safety here. You can't miss it. Very audible click, which is nice. You have a gigantic charging handle here, which I actually do like. Now, I can get caught up on some stuff here, but it's not the end of the world. I'd rather have this because, you know, you are going to be manipulating this thing a lot in order to reload it when you go completely dry. You have a button here, drop it, it's ready to go. It's a huge button, you cannot miss it. Now this button here is aftermarket. This isn't the stock one. You know, this is what they would use on the Benelli M1014, you know, in the Marine Corps. The stock one that would come with like the M4 if you're looking to make one of these guys, well, it's kind of tiny. And while this is a super nice upgrade, I really do recommend that. Really, out of the factory, this thing is set up extremely nice. You know, the only thing I would genuinely change on this gun, and it's a very small thing, but I would like to have some sort of Picatinny rail or some sort of, you know, M-lock slot, something from the factory to mount, you know, a light or your laser to. That would be a really nice feature because, you know, with a shotgun, obviously, you know, you're working with either busting down door hinges or it's going to be indoors or just generally close work. And well, a flashlight would be really nice for that because, you know, I'm not shooting 300 to 600 yards with this thing. I'm shooting like 50 yards and in with this. And, you know, with today's lights, whether you get like a Surefire or a mod light, something like that, that's gonna blind a guy, you know, with that thing focused right on their eyeballs. So I would like that. Now, there are plenty of aftermarket features to help get you that on there. Again, you know, there's a lot of stocks, options that, you know, that have them built into it. But I'd like to say, I really think that should have been added from the factory, but that's okay. It's a very cheap, inexpensive part to throw on it and get you that light mount or laser mount, whichever you prefer. So gentlemen, that's a wrap on the Benelli M1014. Survey says, go get you one, King. You've earned it, and until next time.